Is ready?
Are we ready, Bob?
I'm ready whenever you're ready.
Meeting's called back to order. We will now move to the finance and facility items. Regents.
First item is item 19, and this is on page 39 of your report. Item 19-88, summaries of financial support. Before Mr. Whitmore gives these reports, here are highlights of gifts received since our last meeting. The Dillard College of Business Administration Small Business Development Center received $50,000 from the James N. McCoy Foundation on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. James McCoy to assist with operations. Mr. and Mrs. Robert C. Librock donated $50,000 to the Lamar D. Fang College of Fine Arts to establish the Emma Pendergrass Scholarship. The funds will be held in the MSU Foundation. Recipients are the students in the Juanita and Ralph Hardy School of Visual Arts. Mr. Dwayne DeVona and Big Brothers Big Sisters contributed $39,163 to the Dillard College of Business Administration Center for Nonprofit Management and Leadership, which were proceeds from the 2018 Dancing for the Stars fundraiser. Mr. and Mrs. Joe Prothrow contributed $30,000 for the Aiken Music Series. These contributions were received from the Dale and Joe Prothrow Family Fund and matching contribution of $20,000 from the Perkins Prothrow Foundation. Robert D. and Carol Gunn College of Health Sciences and Human Services received $20,000 from the Wagner Foundation Health Sciences Scholarship from Mr. Eugene Willingham with the E. Paul and Helen Buck Wagner Foundation. Funds will be used for scholarships awarded to transfer students and returning adults, students majoring in nursing, respiratory care, and radiological science. The support from our community alumni foundations and friends continues to be outstanding. Mr. Vidmar, please review your report.
Thank you, Chairman Harris. And before we actually look at some of the financial numbers in your board book, I was thinking about campaigns, and Regent Sweat and Dr. Shipley passed on a great article from the Chronicle of Philanthropy on campaigns, and Amy's thinking about the role of campaigns, what they'll play, what they are playing, that they're becoming bigger more frequently, and more of the money's coming from a shorter percentage of the folks, and that trend will continue. But they also give some other advantages that I think are things that we talked about very early in this campaign, and I know Dr. Shipley and I even talked about them, advantages to the institution that we're seeing. Campaigns give you a chance to showcase and develop talent. And we're seeing that from things like a provost who has learned that he could ride another horse, and he's riding a fundraising horse really, really well, and levering the reputation of MSU and in the health sciences and other areas. That's exciting. It's exciting to see a president as our conductor, and kind of the conductor and chief of keeping us moving the parts, working alongside a board with accountability. So now we really are seeing quantifiable goals that we've set, and my team benefits from seeing that we reach some of those goals, and we're in process on some of the others. That's a great thing. You see a vice president, student life, who has a propensity for research. Dr. Lamb working with a foundation in town, to really create something like the Pretty Scholars. I mean, I could go on, but it's a team effort, and that's one of those things that I think at the end of this campaign, we've talked a lot about sustainability, and it won't just be in the numbers of donors and the amount of money. It'll be in the professional development and volunteer development of our community and our staff and our faculty. And that is perhaps one of those things that, only when we're ahead of the ball game do you even have leisure to kind of think and look at that. So that's really a thing that I want to thank the generosity and the leadership of this people in this room and our community for making that possible. Now on to some of the numbers for people like Regent Hessing and others. Page 43 of your board book. We're going to look at a couple, just four of these reports very quickly. Number 43, your board book, comprehensive campaign through March 31st. Very good. In this, through 3/31/2019, really happy to report that the campaign goal of 50 million has been exceeded, sits in new gifts and commitments at 51,494,384. That's 102.99, almost 103% over goal in about 37% of the time expended. So we continue to see good traction on that area. If you could turn to page 44 of your board book, now we're looking at the accountability area for the fiscal year. The goal was $8 million, which is up from last year and up from 2 years ago. And we sit through the end of March at 11,932,429. That's that's 149.16% of goal. So looking really strong there. The next two reports are new reports. We talked about that this board has asked us to be accountable in sustainability. These ones are going to be harder for us to reach, and we're in process on them. These are some heavy lifting reports, and if you look on page 45 of your board book, please, the two areas that we're looking at broad area, breadth of the campaign, are numbers of donors and numbers of gifts. On the cumulative numbers of donors, our goal for this year was set at 3,288, and we sit through the end of March at 2,459. It's about 75%, 74.8% towards the goal, expended about 58 and a third of the percentage of the time. Like to be a little bit farther ahead on that one. These next two are going to be hard for us to attain in some ways, but we are going to continue to try, and we anticipate coming very close on some of these. One of those things that's good about having accountability and goals we talked about and the professional development of your team is it forces us in a good way to try new things, new strategies, new data, look at new analytics. For example, this year is the first time ever we tried an alumni association appeal. These are people who are members of our alumni association that don't give beyond that. And that's gracious that they give beyond that. So we did an appeal like that, mailed about 200 letters. So far, to be honest, the response has been candid, and we've seen a few gifts in. We tried that. We're also trying in the process of a retiree appeal. A number of our faculty and staff do a payroll withdrawal for a long time, and it adds up over the years, significant donations. So we thought if we ever asked them to continue that, maybe through an automatic credit card. We're trying that, and seeing how that goes. Still too soon to tell you if that's going to be the results of that. I would say they look to be somewhat successful. We're still a little early in that. We've got a lot of work to do in social media. We will be reallocating under the president's guidance and stuff. We'll be reallocating some of our resources in annual giving towards more social media because we've got to reach better the masses and our younger alumni. And so some of those funds we may be using for interns, vendors, other areas in that. And you'll hear maybe more about that as we get to next fall.
Tony, you mentioned
yes,
200 letters were mailed in the alumni appeal.
Yeah.
Surely we have more members than that in our alumni.
Those are members that have not given.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so good point. We have over 4,000 members of our alumni association, but about 200 have not given besides their gift to the alumni association. Good point.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. We have this report and the next one I'm going to look at, the last one, as Dr. Shipley was talking about in a meeting earlier this week, this gives us a roadmap, whether it's in retention or it's advancement. This is a roadmap, and I thank you as board members for giving us, kind of the push to have a roadmap, So when we get down the road, we'll find some things. It's the first year we've ever measured ourselves in this, so we'll be looking at that and assessing that as we go through it. The last one we'll look at is page 46, numbers of gifts here. Goal is 3,662. We sit at 62.7%, 58.3% of the time expended. Now this one is kind of, you could see, if you look at the chart, February and March particularly, we're encouraged, and this ties back to another initiative that we've talked about, is the faculty staff campaign, which is going very, very well. You could see numbers of gifts in February and March were pretty strong. We exceeded last year, which wasn't a bad year, in both those months, anchored by our faculty staff. You may remember that the percentage of our faculty staff giving in 2016, 2017 was 13%. Last year, it was 17%. And now we're happy to report, and we have a couple of weeks to go, we're at 47%. So that's been a lot of people working on that, everything from faculty, collaboration with Dr. Jamie Grigsby's and Mr. Jim Mark's class on marketing promotions to great chairs, a great video, and just a lot, too many people to thank in that. Sustaining that momentum will be a challenge we look forward to, but will be a challenge to keep going, and we hope to be at 75% at the end of next year. So those are some of the highlights that we see in that, and again, just very thankful for the leadership of the university and our board and the generosity of the community and our alumni. It's pretty amazing. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. As a reminder, your folder contains a list of donors and no cards are on the table. Please write thank you notes to those assigned to you and any others you would like to include. Items 19-89, Beeline Medical Corporate Sponsorship Agreement and Naming. Provost Johnson will present this item for recommendation.
Thank you, Regents. Beeline Medical is a company that provides the hardware and software necessary for high-fidelity simulation, such as we'll have in our simulation center in the new building. When we approached them about this, they saw the facilities and the opportunities. This is another corporate sponsorship, and they were very enthusiastic about that. So this is another agreement where we provide the opportunity for collaboration and research together, presentations together. We would have first right of refusal for beta testing new hardware and software. And the maintenance agreements for this this type of equipment that is extremely expensive these days. So a 5-year agreement and a return for that. Oh, and also being a show site for them for this region, so they would want to bring clients through to see the facilities that we would offer. So certainly a good recruitment tool for us. And return for that, we would add the byline to the name. This would be the J.S. Bridwell Regional Simulation Center, powered by Beeline. And like I said, they were very enthusiastic, very interested in this agreement, and offer that for approval.
Are there any questions of Dr. Johnson? Hearing none. Chairman Crosno, I move approval of the corporate sponsorship agreement with Beeline Medical LLC in changing the name of the J.S. Bridwell Simulation Center to the J.S. Bridwell Regional Simulation Center powered by Beeline.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great job, Provost Johnson, in getting these sponsorships. That's the second biggest one, second big one in the last 6 months or so.
So thank you, I appreciate that.
Item 19-90, financial report. The administration recommends acceptance of January through March 2019 financial reports. Are there any questions? No questions. Hearing none, Chairman Crosno, I move the board accept the financial reports as presented.
We have a motion again. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Item 19-91, investment report. The administration recommends acceptance of the second quarter fiscal year 19 report. Are there any questions? Chairman Crosno, I move acceptance of this report.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-92, Public Funds Investment Act compliance. In compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act, Interim Vice President Valerie Maxwell attended required investment training, and her training certificate is presented for board approval as required. Chairman Crosno, I move approval of Mrs. Maxwell's required training as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-93, salary, title, position changes in the fiscal year 19 budget. The reports of personnel changes are presented for information only. The list of new positions and salary and title changes are presented for ratification. Are there any questions? Chairman Crosno, I move the board ratify the changes as presented.
Somebody provide a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-94, tuition and fee recommendation 2019-2020. As you recall, the administration presented a draft proposal of tuition and fee recommendations for the board's review and discussion in February. The recommendations included in the board book have not changed since that time. President Shipley will begin our discussion, followed by Vice President Lamb.
So I'd like to ask Dr. Lamb to come forward as I just summarized that we really try to stay with our increases as low as possible, but high enough to have the facilities and the programs that students require of us. And we do take these decisions to the students every year, which we did in February. We held off in case the legislative decision-making would show that we needed a higher increase or a lower. And it looks today as if the increase we suggested of around 2% for existing students and 2.8 for new students is what we like. But Dr. Lamb can talk about the different moving parts of this request.
Absolutely, and thank you. Yes, there are three components to this, as you see in your book and recall from our February discussion. Designated tuition, we're proposing would increase $2.55 per credit hour for new students. University services fee, we're proposing would increase by $6.10 per hour for all students, so that's new and returning. And our Student Government Association proposed a security fee, as you all recall, of $50 per semester, $25 per summer term, and that would distribute the funding of our police department across the student body and different IT security measures. And it would also replace the current parking decal. The parking decal was $110 last year, or during the current year, and so this would replace that and more fully fund the University Police Department and our IT services for security measures. Our students recognize that, and we're very, very pleased that they proactively brought this forward and recommended it. We visited with the Student Senate at the February 5th meeting, and they unanimously endorsed the designated tuition and university services fee, and all but one senator endorsed the university, the security fee of roughly 55 senators present.
Are there additional questions?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I know you can't provide it now, but in August, could we get a comparison where we stand against other universities in the state?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be great. Was it in there?
I do have it.
Oh, I'm
If you want-
sorry.
I have it if you want me to pass it
Is it
around.
current?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay.
That's fine, that's all I had.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I had it at the meeting.
It's all right.
That was in the book.
Chairman Crosno, I move approval of the tuition and fee rates for the 2019-20 year.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Items 19-95, campus construction update. The board book includes project status reports and a report on smaller construction projects. Mr. Owen has photographs of current projects to share with us.
Let me push the button.
Not supposed to push this one, so I didn't.
There you go. Yes, don't push that button.
Thanks. I'll go through some of the bigger projects we have going on at the moment. This is, of course, the Health Science Human Services building. This is the east face of it. I've been showing you the west face for several meetings. thought we'd throw something a little different in here. And our picture actually matches this better. Again, this is where we were about 19 months ago at the parking lot. And this is where we are now. We are still planning to occupy this building in August. So, we made good progress on it. Still ways to go, but we should be able to use it for classes in August. The presence of the health science building creates a quad bounded by it, J.S. Bredwell, Dillard, and McCoy building, and which is shown here. We extended the Jesse Rogers Promenade to the north, created this drop-off turnaround area, monument sign, and we'll be adding these statues over the summer months. And as you can see from this picture from a couple of weeks ago, we have completed the Jesse Rogers Promenade, the turnaround, and the monument sign. Can't quite see it, but there are no horses back there yet. And again, this is where the quad was 19 months ago. This is where it is as of 2 weeks ago with our water feature. This picture doesn't look a lot different than what it did the last board meeting. About the only thing that's really changed is we waterproofed the water feature. But part of the issue is the rocks that we're be placing in there are from a local ranch, and they're kind of remote, hard to get to. The access in and out isn't that great. It has been raining so much that they haven't been able to get them out of there. Plus the fact that it's been raining so much, we probably couldn't get them into the site. So we're really not in a bind till about early early July. So we should be all right over the course of the next few weeks. It tends to dry out, be able to get them in and complete that installation. There used to be kind of a mountain over here that they've been working their way to get rid of too. The rest of it's left there. If you see it, it's topsoil that they'll end up spreading over that whole site. Next, we have the Texas Accessibility Standards and ADA and Fire Marshal Upgrades Project. You may recall at the last board meeting I showed you where we installed a new ramp onto Aiken. Well, we put one on the south end of the Welcome Center of Hardin at the Welcome Center here over the last several months. This project last summer was focused on bowling and Fame Fine Arts. This summer it's primarily focused on Aiken and a little bit within this building. And as you can see here, we added a couple of ramps on the east side of the main entrance to Hardin. There are no ramps over there. And that works. We're putting on some operators on several of the doors so you can push them and they'll open up. We're not replacing the doors because of the historic value in them, but we do have to, because they're not wide enough, we have to get actuators that will actually open them on their own. So that will occur over the summer. And we're also renovating the bathrooms on the second floor. These are the 1960s vintage restrooms that are there. We completed the demo. We have some issues with asbestos, we think, or we're getting it checked out in the flooring of that. So last week or so we have not moved forward on it, but we hope to get that resolved pretty quick and can move forward. As far as the Moffett, you may recall we're on phase 2A, which is renovation of the third floor and half of the second floor. 2B will be the first floor and the other half of the second floor. This involves installation of 3 different study pods on the second floor that kind of look like this. They're about 150 square foot rooms that'll have a conference table in them and monitor on the wall and marker board. And you can see 2 of them right there. This one is actually off the picture. I don't have a wide angle lens. This view is from standing at the administrative offices looking back towards the old elevator. It's kind of the same position looking back there. There's the elevator. So you can see we've replaced the ceiling tile to more modern through this area, changed out the lights, We replaced the carpet, but we covered it because we don't want to damage it until the construction is complete. As far as the third floor goes, we finished it up almost 2 weeks ago and opened it up for dead week and finals, and it involved primarily repainting all the surfaces, replacing the carpet, had to move the stacks. They were too close together, and there are a lot of stacks to move to get the proper width. But it's now open. There's a few minor areas that still need painting, but they don't affect the use of it. And I should say that 2B, this phase of it should be completed by mid-June, and then we'll roll into 2B.
Does that include new furniture?
There's a little bit of new furniture that will go into the new study pods.
But nothing decorative to match the new look? Just the
Not
old
at this
stuff
point.
for now?
There are funds to do it for the second phase. It won't replace building wide, but it will be more on the first floor primarily. That's what we'll replace with the newer instead of these. At the last meeting, there was a suggestion that the facility shops building be improved so it looks a little more like standard MSU architecture. So we wanted to add bricks to it. So we went back to the architect. They provided this update that it's kind of small view, but you can see we added some arches, a couple locations. Can't tell so well, but there's cast stone under the windows. They've also, the columns that are here stick out about 1.5 inches further than these flat areas, if you will. The color of this is a little deceiving. It is going to be MSU bricks. The computer model that they used cranked it out very slowly, so they ended up shutting off when it got to about this point. So these striations you see are not real. It will be more like what you see over here with MSU brick. Also add that this is not a flat wall. You're looking at a front view of a sloped wall that's about 9-10% or degree angle. It's not a vertical face there. You'll see it on the next picture a little better. But you're kind of looking at a straight-on view of this. It will not be so dominating when you're standing on the ground. But this is the east elevation, the part that faces LJR, and you can see we did the same issue with the columns here in the brick setback in between it. And the other two, the south view, which is being the fenced-in yard area, as well as the east view or west view, will be brick. It will not have this offset like that. It's a little, it's not really necessary because we've got a lot of openings on those other two faces, and they won't be seen by the general public for the most part. Any questions?
This item is presented for information only and no action is necessary. Item 19-96, Capital Expenditure Plan, MP1 Report, fiscal year 2020 through 2024. Each year, the coordinating board requests an update of the university's 5-year plan for new construction, repair, and rehabilitation projects, information on resource projects, and property purchases. A copy of the proposed MP1 is shown in your board book. Mr. Owen, please review this item.
This is a standard report we have to submit to the coordinating board that shows all the potential projects that we might want to pursue over the next few years. It does not mean we have funding for it. It does not mean you are approving any of it. So we can start construction. It's simply a wish list that they require us to submit. It used to be if you didn't have a project listed on it, it took a lot of effort to move forward with the projects. Not quite so much now, but nevertheless, they still require this submission.
Are there any additional questions or discussion? Chairman Crosno, I move approval of the capital expenditure plan report as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-97, JS Critical Hall renovation project, authorization project. Mr. Owen, please review this item and recommendations with us.
Okay, last November, the board approved the $1.1 million project to renovate Bridwell. And the architect had developed a project that meets the basic needs of the new occupants of the building. And in that time, or since that time, the architect also developed several alternates in case we had additional funding available. So one of which is to replace the 21-year-old infrastructure, IT infrastructure that's inside the building, as well as a science lab that the Dean of the College of Education would really like to pursue. And the hope is that after we get the bids back in early June, that we'll be able to provide additional funding to pursue both of those alternates, and for a project total of about $1.6 million.
Are there any questions? Chairman Crosno, I move the board authorize the total project cost and funding and issue a purchase order to the best value contractor as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-98, naming of the new Health Sciences and Human Services building. Information regarding this naming of the new building is included in the board book. President Chipley, please review this recommendation with us.
So we asked students and faculty and staff for ideas about the name for our new building, the new Health Sciences and Human Services building. As you know, our colleges carry names, our buildings carry names. In this case, the college that will be there is named, but the building did not have a name. And we felt that with the prominence of the centennial over the next couple of years, it would really be good to link our 100th year of existence to the name of this building. I also thought it sounded a little bit like the legacy name that the students presented. It's a little unusual, it's creative, but it also leaves us the opportunity, when we have that $5 to $7 million donor who would like to name the building, we can put someone's name on the building. So it's also a placeholder, but if it's here at the next centennial, then I guess it can be Centennial 1 and Centennial 2. So I would like to request that you approve the naming of the new building as Centennial Hall.
Any other discussions? Chairman Crosno, I move approval of the naming of Centennial Hall.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Regents, do you have anything more to present?
There is none.
Thank you. We will now move to the audit, compliance, and management matters. Regent Burks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item, 19-99, is the standard of conduct, conflict of interest, disclosure, ethics, and compliance with the following requirements. Every May, each regent, other than the student regent, is asked to confirm in writing that they have received copies of state and university ethics policies, and that they have filed a personal financial statement with the Texas Ethics Commission as required by state law. An acknowledgement form is in your folder for your signature. If you would please sign and give this form to Debbie at your earliest convenience.
Or I'll come after you.
I'll go first.
Oh, thank you.
The next item is 19-100, the compliance update. Mr. Stovall's update on compliance activities is in the board book, and he is here to answer questions if necessary. Are there any questions regarding Mr. Stovall's report? If there are no questions, this item is presented as a point of information only, and no action is necessary. Item 19-101, audit update. Ms. Kidwell's update is also in the board book for our information, and she is here to answer any questions that you all may have. Are there any questions regarding Ms. Kidwell's update? If there are no questions, this item is presented as a point of information only and no action is necessary. Item 19-102, Website Accessibility Audit Report, 18C. This audit report is in the board book and is presented for acceptance. Ms. Kidwell, would you please review this report with us?
I'll be happy to. Good afternoon. The website accessibility audit was outsourced and it was included in my 2018 audit plan. It was required as part of the resolution for the OCR complaint that we received in 2018. I'm happy to report that we have successfully completed the audit, and as of the date of this report, there are 72% of the 18 site-wide items that have been remediated. I'd like to thank the webmaster and Julie Gaynor for their hard work and getting all of the requirements done for something as broad as the university's web pages. I think they did a phenomenal job, and I'm happy to report that all of the issues will be completed, estimated by September of this year. They've done a great job.
Thank you, Ms. Kidwell. Are there questions or is there any discussion?
We're going to have a test on that audit report.
Yes.
Make sure you understand it.
Come on.
A lot of technical information.
Well, I would just like to point out, if I could, during our committee meeting, Ms. Kidwell noted that we have one person as a webmaster.
Correct.
And that we're currently seeking someone to assist him in doing his job so that we can make sure that we keep up on the productivity of what we're doing and the importance of making the website accessible to all our students. So I just wanted to let you all know that that is a concern, and I know the university is working hard at getting someone in to help him so that we can keep up with what it is we need to do to be in compliance. So thank you for all your work on that, Lee.
Thank you.
Chairman Crosno, I move the board to accept this audit report.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-103, the Construction Contract Compliance Audit Report, 18-05. This audit report is in the board book and is presented for acceptance. Ms. Kidwell, would you please review with us?
Thank you. Well, as Kyle just showed us the progress on the building of the health science building, now Centennial Building, this audit is part of that project. We outsourced this project to a CPA firm who actually audited the construction manager at risk and looked at all the invoices presented to the university for payment, helped us with our processes and our contracting, and this is part one of two of the construction audits. This was at the interim date where the building itself was about 50% complete, which was at the end of August, and next week Kyle and I are meeting with the same company to get ready for the part two, which is right at the very end before we take possession. This audit, it's interesting in that it is an area that I don't possess that expertise, so we brought in experts, and I speak for Kyle, but myself, we've learned a lot, and I think it's a good idea to bring these kind of audits in on projects that are over $30 million.
Thank you, Lee. Are there any questions or discussion about this audit?
Well, I'll just make a comment that I think it's very important that we do these types of audits, that it gives a lot of comfort to the board members that we're not being taken advantage of in any of these construction situations, and so I think it's a good idea that we should continue those.
Do we have a limit at which a contract is over that limit that we audit?
I'm going to recommend that when I present the second part. I believe that the board or can authorize Dr. Shipley to set a limit where any projects that are at or exceed whatever dollar limit that is have an audit built into the project budget.
Chairman Crosno, I move the board accept this audit report.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-104, Student Financial Assistance Cluster Audit Report. 19-02, this audit report is in the board book and is presented for acceptance. Ms. Kidwell, would you please review with us?
Thank you. Well, this audit was in direct relation to what you heard this morning with our fifth-year SACS accreditation package. This was a piece of that requirement where we outsourced. It has to be an independent CPA firm provide this audit, and they looked at our student financial assistance cluster. And like Mr. Dietz mentioned this morning, it was a clean audit, a good opinion. They also found no instances of noncompliance with laws and other regulations and contract and grant agreements. And they also found that the university complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements that the government has for this Title IV funding. So it's a very good audit, and the staff and the financial aid should be commended. But this audit was done specifically for SAC's fifth-year reporting.
Any questions or discussion from Ms. Kidwell? Mr. Chairman, I move the board accept this audit.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Please continue.
Item 19-105, Benefits Proportionality by Fund Audit Report. This audit report is in the board book and is presented for acceptance. Ms. Kidwell, you have the floor.
Thank you. This audit I actually did. Benefits proportionality is the state, through the General Appropriations Act, which we also talked about this morning, requires that salaries paid by the state, the benefits paid on those same salaries are paid by the state. So if your salary's paid by local funds, those benefits have to be paid by local funds. They don't want the state paying benefits for salaries that the state didn't have to cover. The General Appropriation Act last year required us to look at 3 years at once, and that was a very painful, long audit. And I decided this year to put 1 year scope and look at benefits proportionality again. And this also gave me the opportunity to ensure that the recommendations from last year's audit were implemented. And Chris Stovall and his staff did a great job and had implemented 100% of those recommendations, and again, complied with all aspects of the benefits proportionality.
Any questions or discussion? Mr. Chairman, I move the board accept this audit report.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-106, Holiday Schedule for Staff Employees, year 2019-2020. The holiday schedule for staff employees for next year is explained and presented in the board book. Chairman Crosno, I move the board approve the schedule as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 19-107, Board of Regents bylaws. A new draft of the board bylaws is shown in the board book for our consideration and approval. Mr. Maka, please review the process we have gone through in this bylaw revision and highlight any significant changes that have been made since we saw the document in February.
Quite a process.
This has been quite a process. I'm sure the President's Cabinet will regret whenever this is finalized, because I talk about it about every week in Cabinet. But what we've done is go back, the proposed bylaws. This time we kind of color-coded it, the changes that were proposed back in November in the board book today. Those are in green. And then we made a couple more changes for this board meeting, and those are in red. And a couple that I'll just highlight. One is on page 3 of the bylaws, which is page 177 of your board book. But we put that in there just for future board members to kind of give them a heads up that, the Senate, when they consider the confirmation of an appointee, they may call the appointee to Austin. We know that Regent Fideli recently testified, Regent Burks testified when she was appointed or nominated, and so that's just kind of a heads up that may be a possibility. And one of the other big ones that I'd initially thought about it, and rethought it and thought we probably ought to include it, and that's on page 8, actually page 182 of your board book, but that has to do with this board's compliance with the legislature's campus carry law. You may remember back in 2015, the legislature passed campus carry, and the board was obligated to carry out certain procedures, did that, and implemented that law, and I'm pleased to say that it's been pretty well received. But I thought it'd be good to put that in there, show that the board has complied with that, and for nothing else, for historical purposes, so down the line we'll know what was done and when. But that's the gist of it. I have, golly, this has been a comprehensive effort, lots of underlining, lots of strike-throughs, number changes, and gone through there and late yesterday evening, I wanted to finalize that and look at a clean copy of it, get all those underlines and strike-throughs out and whatnot. And so I've done that and made sure the numbers line up. But it's been a comprehensive process, but I think it's been a good one. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all may have about the proposed bylaw.
Only Barry could have done that.
You got that right.
Good job.
Attaboy, Barry.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Maka. If there are no questions, Chairman Crosno, I move the board approve the Board of Regents bylaws as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Regent Burks, do you have anything more to present?
That's all we have.
The Board of Regents will now go into executive session to discuss items 1972A, consultation with attorney, 19-72B, real property, and 19-72C, personnel matters to include faculty emeritus, tenure and promotion, as well as annual performance review of the president and director of internal audits, as allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 072, and 074. For the record, the date is May 9, 2019, and the time is
2:05 p.m.
Dr. Shipley, Mr. Maka, Ms. Barra, and Dr. Johnson may remain for the discussion